he was on the boat with the empirical student who was being very, some of you educators know about this, getting really frustrated with the intuitive type of knowledge. And the intuitive sometimes gets frustrated with the empirical type. But in any case, there was a bird that dipped its beak into the ocean, into the sea. And then it lifted its beak out of the sea again, and just one drop came out of the sea and fell back into the sea. It's a very small drop. And he said to Moses, peace upon him, he said, all of the knowledge that you have and that I have, compared to the knowledge of Allah, is like that one drop from the sea that was on the beak and then fell back into the greater ocean of Allah's knowledge. So when we talk about the matters of the soul and the spirit, it can sometimes get confusing, but at the end of the day, the best answer is to say it's a mystery that is known to Allah, that soul that every human being has, and that originated from one soul at the beginning. Aql in Arabic, AQL, these are starting to look like computer science terms. We're in Silicon Hills here, but AQL actually means aql. Just the mind is something different that's mentioned in the Quran, but it's for understanding. But in the end, the shahada incorporates the mind, the person, like logically it makes sense to him that the tree is not a god, the table is not a god, this human being is not a god for this and this reason. But there is a reality here. There has to be an originator. So that's the mind part of the shahada. Oh, Muhammad is the messenger. He was never known to tell a lie. He lived his people. He wasn't an arrogant, vain person. He didn't develop any weird psychoses or anything like this. He was always, and he confirmed what things came before. That's the mental part, right, of the shahada. The body is just the tongue saying, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. The soul is what takes time. Is for it to really go deep down and you really feel it and experience it deep down. And so this is how the testimony of faith as a practice, just like all the other practices in Islam, they are experiential in the sense that a person may not be able to articulate, this part is for the mind, this part is for the body, this part is the soul, but the whole experience when you talk about prayer, or the whole experience when you talk about pilgrimage, or the whole experience when you talk about fasting, or even the testimony of faith, it's a combination of all the elements integrated into one for that human being. So it's a very interesting reality that you will find by studying the religion of Islam deeper and deeper. Any questions about this? I think I've been talking for a while about I and the self. So any questions? Yes. I don't know, y'all are psychologists here in the front, maybe? No? Okay, any psychologists want to elaborate? Are you a psychologist? Okay, so you can come up and give the rest of the lecture if you want. Okay. Okay, all right, good. So now I have to watch out because there was a brother. He was getting his PhD in psychology at UT, and one of the brothers, he had these piercing blue eyes. He would always look at people like this and he'd say, "Stop trying to analyze me." So I have to watch out now. Okay, no, it's okay. I'll try to reach the fulfilled self, so I'm not agitated by anything. So moving on, the testimony itself. The testimony itself, we already started leading into this, which is the rational part. We're going to look at the story of Abraham in the Quran. And because many of you have Qur'ans, I will actually tell you the verses once we get to that. And we will also look at what are we talking about when the inner reality and belief and the inner experience as well. So in terms of Abraham, peace upon him, it's actually in surah number 6 or chapter number 6. I'm going to start feeling like a pastor. Where it says, it's from verse 74. So chapter 6, verse 74, until pretty much the whole story. We're not going to go into the whole story, but pretty much until 83. So chapter 6, 74 until 83. So what this story of Abraham, peace upon him, and of course Abraham is one of the most important prophets of Islam and in Islam. This is now a young man, maybe even some say an adolescent boy, maybe even a little bit younger, who is challenging. The I is now challenging, not out of arrogance, but out of rejection of what his society was doing, which was worshiping gods of wood and stone. And so he goes to his father, and I think this is also a biblical story, so you're familiar with it. And he challenges his father. But this part of the story is talking about the rational, observational path towards the testimony of God's oneness, which again resonates for us in the 21st century in what we like to call, in various times, scientific age, hypothesis. Yeah, I have to be a judge for science fair sometimes, right? So what do they have? Hypothesis and observation, and then what do they? Experimentation and the conclusion, and redo the hypothesis or not. So this is really, and that's actually a big part of the Quran. It is directly God saying, Allah saying, look around you. Look at the camels, how they're going. Look at the sky, look at the mountains, look at the trees. Look at the food that you're going to eat. Inshallah, God willing. I apologize, by the way, that the food is late. We will get it on time. I apologize for that, but it will be coming here soon. So look at that food. Think about it. And sometimes I do this with my students, and they kind of look at me like, are you okay? But actually, it's an instruction in the Quran. It's like to actually look and think about, okay, so let me think how this whole thing came about. And to go back, and depending on how much scientific knowledge you have, you can go deep into photosynthesis, and you can go deep into the nutrients coming out of the soil, and it's very amazing. So that's actually an instruction of the Quran. It's telling the human being, use your mind. If you use your mind, you will come to God. Not the opposite. Not that, if I use my mind, it'll take me away from God. It's actually saying, no, the mind is a vehicle towards God, and then after that, there's the bright torch of faith. But the mind actually is the step towards that. So in any case, I just wanted to go through, with Abraham, peace upon him, he intuitively, inside of himself, he had this sense there has to be a God. That there is a God. Again, sometimes people try to say, that's just some part of the prefrontal cortex, that's the God part of the brain. But this is something within every human being. We actually call it in Arabic the fitrah, or that's the innate sense. The scholars, they like to talk, in hypotheticals. They say if you were just to take, just a human being totally separate from his society and throw him onto an island somewhere, right, what would he be like? And so they say that he will naturally become a person of religion. And the people in religious studies, they like to use fancy terms. They say human being, we call him homo religiosus. Right? So that every human society has pretty much, even communism and Marxism developed into a sort of religion. And I was surprised. I don't know if it was on the BBC or CNN. It's talking about atheists in England are now starting their own church of atheism. So it's now becoming a religion, which is actually interesting. So this is the nature of the human being. But he had the sense, okay, who is this God then? I need to seek him. So it says, when the nighttime came, which actually is a very good hint, this is when it's best to seek, is in the nighttime. In the nighttime is there are a lot of openings in the soul in the nighttime. So in the nighttime, he sees the stars, and he looks up at the stars. Which of you guys like to go camping or have a ranch? You know that experience, right? He looks up to the stars, and he's just overwhelmed. And he says, this is my Lord. Then the stars begin to recede and fade. And he says, wait a minute. This isn't matching what I feel inside my Lord should be. He shouldn't fade away. Right? So then he sees the moon come out, bright, beautiful. Actually, I don't know if it's in Western culture, but definitely in Middle Eastern culture, the moon is seen as the height of beauty. Right? So if a husband wants to make a good comment to his wife, he'll tell her, you're as beautiful as the moon.